Welcome in, everybody. Happy Thursday. The new face here, I'm super excited that is joining today. This is Kevin, who's built an awesome business called Nashville Media Co. I'm really excited to talk with Kevin. He's an awesome guy. Known you for about a year and a half now, I guess. Did a ton of stuff right. He found success fast, but it was well earned. And he's just a dude who puts in the work. And I wanted to have him on here today. I'm grateful for his time because he embodies what it works well in this industry. And obviously, that's backed by the numbers, almost a $50,000 a month business about a year and a half in. So Kevin, let's I don't want to make it too formal, but give a little bit of your story and we'll dive in.
Well, first of all, golly, I'm flattered on that introduction. I don't know if I deserve that much credit, but yeah, man, to your, like you said, we built just shy of a $50,000 a month business. You said earlier, I did a lot of things right. I don't know if I did or if I just tend to focus on all the things I did wrong, because I did a lot of things wrong as well. Even with you guys as my coaches, even with you guys telling me what to do, what not to do, I still went out and did I did all the things wrong. And then I'd come back and do it the way you told me to in the first place. But, one way or another, we got to the point where we are now. And man, it's been an exciting journey.
Yeah.
I think we talked earlier in the week, and you brought up doing this Q&A, and I thought, oh, it's so cool, because I swear it feels like yesterday that I was watching a very similar Q&A with you and Bronson with I think CPV Media up in Virginia. Awesome, yeah, and I looked up so much to him and like his uprising story, and I just thought, man, if he can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it.
Let's go to the start, because I love your story. And everybody comes from somewhere, and just some stories are straight up more inspiring than others, and yours is just one of those that is, because of the actions that you took. So yeah, I mean, I guess go back as far as you want, but you made a move, bunch of other stuff. Dive in.
Some of you listening might have heard, because like every time I get the chance to repeat the story, I say it. But the way I found out about you was I was going down the YouTube rabbit hole, like how I make $1 million pressure washing driveways, how I clean gut, whatever. And it was like, I quit my traditional 9-to-5 job. I knew I didn't want to do that anymore. I moved from California to Tennessee about 2 years now, and I moved here. Here's how, like, caution to the wind. Here's I think it's just me. Like, our mindset moving from California to Tennessee was like, we'll figure it out, and that's kind of been like my entire mindset. Like, not only with our life the last 2 years, but also Nashville Media Company. Like, we'll figure it out. It'll work itself out. And we moved here. I didn't know what I wanted to do. We landed here in Tennessee, and I didn't even know where we were going to live. Like, we didn't have a place to buy. We didn't have a place to rent. We literally stayed in a hotel for like a month until we figured it out. And then we kind of got established. I think I got like some part-time job, and I was like, I know I'm not going to keep this job, but it's something for now, just because I know I have to have a job. And I was just praying about it. Even when I was back in California, like, what is it that I want to do? What's going to, like, what is it that I'm actually going to enjoy doing? What am I going to be good at? And what can I do to make money? So, not to get ahead of myself here, but one of the prerequisites to what I wanted to do was, one, I want to make money. I'm the only income. I want to provide for my family. And two, I want to kind of escape the rat race a little bit. Like, I'm tired of the 9-to-5. So I thought, okay, what job can I do where I can eventually work from home a little bit more? So that was my mindset. And it probably took a good 8 months to finally discover real estate photography. I didn't even know this was an industry. I didn't know people did this as a career. I literally had zero idea that this existed. But I ran into one of your videos, right, going down the YouTube rabbit hole, and I came across. I won't bore you with the whole logistics, but I found you, and it just made sense. And I thought, you know what, I have sales background. I'm good with people. I'm outgoing. I don't know anything about photography at all. Like, I've never held a camera, but this guy's telling me that I can learn. I'm like, I got this. Like, again, like, so that was like my journey to start. So when I started REPP, when I started all this, I literally had zero clue what I was doing. And it just so happened that at that time you were hosting an in-person workshop in Dallas. I think was it Dallas?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God, that's like this weekend or whatever, right? I had just like, it was like, I discovered REPP. That course was like in a week. And I was like, let me hurry up and buy all my gear. And I bought all the gear. I got it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure you came with all of your gear still in the package, right? Like,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Like my gimbal, I remember peeling off all the stickers. And I remember very vividly you walking up to me like, what is happening here? Like, but I'm like fumbling around because if you've never balanced a gimbal, the first time you balance it, you're like, what is happening? Like it's well, anyway, so that's how new I was. I literally got all my gear the night before I flew out to Dallas. And then I flew out and like the video workshop, it was like a video workshop, like how to shoot video. But everybody in that class already had a business. They already had an established real estate photography business. And they're all looking at me like, who's this guy? And I'm like, I'm here to learn, man. I don't know. And
dude, you've always had that attitude though. It's that's one of the things, like, just so what I'd like to do as we're talking is just point out the things that I think, we work with a lot of people. Some grow faster than others. Some never grow, right? And so it's like, what's the difference and what are the factors? And one thing I see as a limiting belief that people have, that because they believe it, they take action based upon it, and it really screws them up, is that they don't have any connections in the area. They don't know anything about photography. It's like Kevin's the perfect person to talk about this because he moved to a new place literally across the country and was not a photographer before you came into this. And I actually think that's an asset because you had nothing around you and you had a lot to lose, but you had not a lot to lose at the same time in a way that was the only option was forward. And you didn't know about cameras. So you didn't have all this, this is not going to work and stuff. So that's really cool. So you come to the workshop, you leave, and what happens next? Obviously you have training from us. What did you do to grow your business and like take that any way you want?
When I first started, I reached out to a lot of other established real estate photographers, and they just gave me so much information. So I try to pass that along to other people. Same thing with Bronson. That's actually where I got that from. Or Chris Powell. Chris Powell told me that. I go, hey, Chris Powell in Seattle. Don't bother him. He's busy. But Chris Powell helped me out tremendously in the beginning. But, I would just bug him every day with random questions. And I go, hey, man, why are you wasting so much time on me? Like, thank you. And he told me the same thing. He goes, well, when he started, people helped him out. So it's only fair that he passes it along. So I love sharing my experience. I'm not saying that I'm anything, but I started from zero to here. So I feel like I can, if I can help people just kind of unlock those limiting beliefs a little bit, it'll help them out tremendously. So anyways, I forgot your question.
No, you're good. That was perfect. I'll give a special shout out to Chris as well. Chris is an awesome guy. And he spoke at our conference last year, just for everybody listening. And I love Chris's background because it's so different than mine. It's different than Kevin's. Like Chris comes from he's a professional photographer, like went to school for it, a lot of high-end stuff, headshots, product stuff, worked for REI, like a photographer's photographer. And he is so funny because he hates the mentality of so many photographers, how they're all like, they just get so into the weeds. So it's cool. He presented last year on basically how not to like be a photographer mentality person that stays broke. So he's a cool guy and had a shout out. The question, I guess, so you started your business after leaving the workshop. You obviously had training, and you knew a little bit about what to do, but like, what do you think has allowed you to build a business so freaking fast? I mean, almost 50K a month in less than 2 years is incredible. And it was like fast to 10 and 20K too. So like, what do you think it was? What'd you do?
So, I know you give a lot of people advice, and, certain people are in different situations, right? What I did was I burned the ships. I said, hey, this opportunity here meets all my requirements. I want this. I want to make this much, and I want to have like freedom. Right? I want to be able to work towards not, So when I found out that I can make any kind of money doing this, I said, I'm all in. So for me, I quit the job I had. I said, this is what I'm doing. Yeah. I just knew whatever it is that I was going to do, I was going to succeed in it. And I thought I can make this work. So for me personally, I went all in. Other people, they kind of ease into it. They make this more of a part-time thing, and you can definitely do that. But me, with my mentality, where I was, and, my mindset was, I'm like, I'm all in. I'm all in. I want to build this as quickly as humanly possible. So, I kind of dabbled in, what information I saw out there, and I, kind of looked around. I went on the groups. I asked the questions. I talked to Chris. I talked to you, and, I kind of like, set up the business within the first month. And then, I got to know you guys a lot better, and I thought, okay, again, I'm even more sold on this. How do I double down? Coaching, right? I put in the work, but man, you guys really took the guesswork out of it. And like I said, I mentioned earlier, I did a lot of things wrong, but man, you guys were really, really there pushing me to do the right things. And anyway, so I was
going to say, you like everybody does a lot of stuff wrong. I think one thing that really and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think from my perspective, a lot of your success is that you just did a lot. Like it wasn't that you did, like you can make a ton of wrong moves, but if you make them and fix them real fast, you're still good, you know? And so like for everybody listening, Kevin is a fast dude. Like he doesn't wait. He doesn't think and wait forever to take a step. He's just like, let's do it. And I think that's interesting because like my recommendation generally is don't just quit your job, right? But I think the mentality you need to have for anybody is be all in. And so when I'm telling people not to quit their job, here's what I know is true. If I tell someone to quit their job and go all in, they'll just never start. And so I agree absolutely with that for you. I just know that like for a lot of people, it's like, hey, you have to like ease in because otherwise they're going to not do anything at all. So if you're listening and you're like, you resonate with Kevin, fully endorse his strategy. You just, Kevin took risk and he's getting reward, right? The more risk you take, the more reward. And so I love that part of your story.
The only reason I kind of bring that up is because like, I'm not saying that this is the only way to start fast, but I think what I'm trying to get at here is that I feel like I grew quickly. So why is that? I think because I had that all-in mentality. I'm not saying that you have to grow from literally, I don't know anything about real estate photography to 50,000 a month. You don't have to do that in a year and a half. I wanted to, that's what I wanted to do, and I knew I believed in myself. One, because other people had done it. You guys believed in me, and I thought, well, let's go. But if you're listening to that and you're like, well, that doesn't really work for me. I have another job. I'd rather ease it into it. You can definitely do that. A conversation that you and I had in the beginning was, you asked me point blank, okay, Kevin, well, how much do you want to make a month? I was like, I have no idea, man. However much I can, as much as I can. Yeah. And you're like, okay, great, sounds great, but you need to have a number. So I started with a number in mind, and then you told me very specifically, let's break that down. What does that look like? What does that look like per month, per week, per day, per average order value? How do we get there? Cool. So, so that was my goal. My goal was like, cool, we got here. Let's go here. Now let's go here. Now we're at about 50. Now our next goal is 100. So now it's like, cool. That's the goal. It's kind of daunting, but it's like, we can get there. Other people have done it. We can get there. Now it's just a matter of how. But if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I don't really want to do that. I kind of want to ease into it, take my time. That's perfectly fine. You just have to identify exactly what it is that you want, even if it's a goal that scares you a little bit. And then like, cool. Yeah.
You know what's interesting? I think it's like all in is a mentality. And so let's say, you're listening right now and you have a circumstance where it's not possible to do what Kevin did, right? Or it's not going to work out for you. Well, if you're going to do this 3 hours a day, make those 3 hours a day an all in 3 hours. You know what I mean? Like don't like, just because you're not, and that's what I love about what you say. It's like the mentality is independent from the amount of time you can spend. So like maybe you literally can't, whatever. And maybe it's a limiting belief that you can't. And I could challenge that if I knew you individually for everybody listening. But like the main thing that I want you to take from Kevin on this topic is when you're spending that time building your business, it's not, oh, I'm thinking about building this real estate media business. Oh, we'll see if it works. Like you got to get rid of that attitude. It's got to be, I only have 3 hours a day. I'm going to be very dedicated for these 3 hours a day. Because I know that if I treat those 3 hours with respect to my future self by putting in the work today, then maybe I'll be able to expand that 3 hours to my full-time thing. And so I love what you're saying about the all-in thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you hit the ground. You're trying to, what'd you do? Like you did some good stuff. Yeah. I was going to say crazy.
I did some good stuff and some really bad stuff, but I was like, let's try it all. So obviously the Instagram method, right? You told the Instagram method works. I see so many people out there. I talk to a lot of different people individually. They reach out. They're like, hey, I'd love to pick your brain, whatever. Let's jump on a call. I set like a 30-minute timer. I'm like, cool, let's talk. And we just kind of run through it. So I get so much feedback saying, oh, well, I tried the Instagram method, this and that, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, don't wish. I try to come up with these little like catchphrases because then it's like an easy way to remember not to fall into these pitfalls. But it's like, don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. If you're having trouble with the Instagram method, what am I doing wrong? How can I fix it? That's how I've kind of applied everything. So the Instagram method, I grew it, like it works. I built my business off of Instagram. That's it. To this day, I don't have a website. I don't have business cards. I just recently, like a month ago, put a logo on our website, on our Instagram, because I have photographers now that work for us. So it's not just me, but I don't have a website. I don't have business cards. I don't have a Google page. I don't run ads. Literally, Instagram. That's it. That's how I grew my business. End of story. I've done it. Other people have done it, so I know it works. So if you, it's that right there. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. That applies to so many different points in the business, like starting when you're going through the thick of it. Like
dude, 2 days ago when I was telling you about who I was with, that is the advice that he gave me. It's literally every level. I was talking about ads and we were having trouble getting him to work. And he was like, no, you're just not good enough at them. You know what I mean? It's so interesting how that same lesson.
It's like, what can I do better? What can I do? Yeah. And throwing it back to you, Eli, you said something really early on that really stood out. So I look at you and I see you all over YouTube and Instagram and like, man, this guy's just gifted. Like the way I perceived you was like, you just had this natural talent, like this natural gift of gab, whatever you want to call it. Like you were very articulate. And I thought, man, that's a great, like Eli's just that way, end of story. But no, you said something very early on where you would actually wait for your staff to leave your office before you would get on video and do that. And I was like, okay, so talk to me more about that. And you're like, well, it's something that you had to work on. So from my perspective, it's like, oh, Eli just has that gift. He has it and I don't. End of story. No, you said you had to work on it. And I thought, damn, I can get there too. I have to work on it. So I've tried to apply that to a lot of different parts of my business. Like, what can I do better? Like, don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. So the Instagram method, a lot of people tell me it doesn't work. I'm like, no, you're doing something wrong. Let's dive into it. Right.
How can I make it work?
Yes.
Is the question.
Yeah. So I did a lot of cold calling on Zillow. Most people will tell you that don't do that. It's not going to work out. You're going to piss people off. Whatever. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. You know what I did? I made a couple cold calls off Zillow. And they didn't go well. So you know what I did? I watched 12 hours worth of Ricky Caruth sales, cold calling, whatever. And he's a realtor doing cold calls. It has nothing to do with me. Yeah, but you learn kind of like these little techniques. You work on that craft. And if this is something you want to do, what can I do to improve and get better? Cool. So I applied that to everything. Instagram was 75% of what grew my business. Without Instagram, I don't have a business that I do today. As simple as that. But on top of that, I did the Zillow cold calls. I went to brokers opens and like mingles, and I just got out there and networked as much as I possibly could. I started the business and I said, Nashville Media Company is open for business. Let me get out there and shout it from the rooftops, tell everybody that we're open for business and we want your business. So I called people, I hit them up on Instagram. I went to the networking events. When I would get one client, I would ask them for the business. I would ask them for referrals. I would tell them like, I want more business. Give it to me. Like, if you're, and then I think this is a good place to insert another one of my little catchphrases is you do the right things for the right reasons and the money will follow. So it wasn't like, I feel like I got called out at the convention in Vegas where this guy's like, oh, this guy's all about the numbers, whatever, blah, blah. It's like, no. I'm glad you brought that up because that's not the case. Yeah. I have a saying in my heart that it's like, you do the right things for, excuse me, you do the right things for the right reasons and money will follow. Dude, if you're genuine and you actually want to serve your clients, you make a difference. What I would tell people in the beginning is like, I don't just want to be your photographer. I want to be a part of your team. I want to help you grow your brand, right? Forget about the photos, forget about the videos. What does that mean? That means you get to sell this house, you get to make your commission, and you get to use that listing to go get more business. How can we, if you and I are the realtor, how can we work towards that goal? And if you're genuine about it, they will see that. They will refer you to everybody. But again, just as you're growing, it's easy to sit here and fixate on a number and a goal, but it's more than that. You have to do the right things for the right reasons.
Kenny and I had this conversation literally in the last 7 days, no joke, about how if our goal is to make more of our customers happy, that is the number one fastest way to make more money. And obviously there's nuance to that, right? But like, dude, it's so true. There's a mentality that happens with a lot of new photographers that I think really prevents them. And it's kind of the opposite of what they're talking about. So, we talk about giving away shoots and just like, you got to get your name out there at any cost. And I think a lot of people internalize that to make it seem like they are doing the clients a favor, especially if they give like a free add-on or a free shoot. Yeah. And it's like, that is the most like they are doing you a favor by letting you give them for something for free. And so you have to come with that. And it's not like some like woo-woo energy thing. It's just like have the right attitude and the right mentality and do the things for the right. 100% agree. I don't want to.
You talk a lot. You're painting the shed story, right? Like that for me, that embodies doing the right thing for the right reasons, not because the client was going to pay you more, not because they were going to tip you. It was the right thing to do. You're like, hey, I don't have anything else on the books. She's struggling to paint. Let me help her out. Doing the right things for the right reasons. So just having that servant mentality and approaching this as like just having that genuineness and like, hey, I'm here to help. Like I meant that. Like I would tell my clients, like I don't want to just be a photographer. There's there's 100 other photographers out there that could easily replace me. I want to be more than just a photographer. I want, whatever. So be genuine about it. You do have to do a lot of self-analyzing in the beginning, and just kind of identify what it is that's important to you. What are your core values? Wear those on your sleeve, because at the end of the day, we're doing business with people. So many, like, I feel like I had an advantage by coming into this business without having any photography experience. I feel like I had a huge advantage. That's
you
kind
do.
Of like, I came into like, I can win people over. I have a sales background a little bit. I say that very loosely. I didn't really have like, but I felt like we're in the people business. At the end of the day, they could care less about the
business.
Photos.
100%.
Yeah. So people get fixated on the photos and the settings and the camera and the goal, the numbers. Forget about that. We're in the people business.
Yeah. Kevin,
Yeah.
How true is this? You could delete your Instagram and never do a single piece of outreach again, and your business is going to continue to grow like crazy. How does that? Feels pretty true. Yeah.
100%. 100%.
And that's what's so good. And it's a big missing piece for a lot of people that don't grow quickly. It's like, well, I did a lot of the Instagram method. I got a lot of clients, but like, why is my business not? It's because if you don't have that service aspect nailed down, it doesn't matter how many people take you up on the offer. You have to, the power in this business is not the first shoot, right? It's that they're going to keep using you every time they have a listing. If you serve them, if they feel like they're on your team. And then Kevin also said this, and this is true with everybody who grows a business, especially over 50K a month, is so much of your future growth is going to be referral based. And so if you're missing those referrals because you don't build your business correctly to get referrals, you're never going to grow. And it's like, well, how do you get referrals? Well, it goes back to the baseline of like, what are you doing? You're in the service business, serve everybody as best you can. And they'll like you more and they'll want you to win, and you're going to help them win by giving them good media. It's like, I think the biggest thing that people have misunderstanding about, and maybe you could speak to this, Kevin, but like business is not a game of win or lose. Like you're not competing with anybody, you're competing with yourself, but you're not at odds with your clients. If you charge them more, they didn't lose, right? They didn't lose. Like you charge them more to give them more value. It's like this, it all moves in the same direction. So you're not at odds with your clients. You're not trying to win. You're working with them to make it so everybody wins. And I think that's the difference between business and sports a little bit.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's another thing that I see a lot, like just talking to a lot of people in the community, if you want to call it that. But just people have like this mindset of like it's us versus them. Like no, forget like no,
it's not.
With I'll give you guys this example. And this is how I approach every single client, whether it's a free shoot or a paid shoot, whether it's a new client or a client that I've shot for 20 times. This is how I approach our interaction every single time. And this is what I tell my employees now. When I hire a new photographer, I'm like, hey, you are now, I wish I could come up with like a term, like a new job title for them. They're not photographers. They're like customer service / photographer representative. That's really what they are. But, so what, like take this one story, and do with it, what you will. But my first client ever, I reached out to him on Zillow, right? After making like a bunch of Zillow calls that fell flat on their face, I called this guy, offered him a free shoot. He took me up on it, was there the next day. But I just had this mentality of like, I'm going to blow this guy away with my service, with me. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be genuine. I'm going to have that servant mentality, and I'm going to deliver. I'm going to, not just talk about it, but be about it. Like deliver the photos, deliver, exceptional customer service, exceptional quality photos. And it's head to toe. It's head to toe. Like the entire, it's an experience. You're not just, if all you're providing them are photos, you're going to fall flat. You're not going to get the referral. If you're providing this outstanding customer service, you humanize yourself, they're going to like you. They're going to, you're going to get to know them, be genuine about it. That's where the referrals come from. Not by you had the best photos, you had the best prices. No.
Dude, 100%. I want to, Brandon's saying something in the comments that I want to clarify. Cause like, I think a lot of people take what I say as the photos don't matter. Absolutely disagree. They do matter. There is a standard. 100%. And if you're below that standard, you can have great customer service. You'll still probably get business, but you need both. Kevin said in all areas, he delivers the service and the media, and both are exceptional. And so the thing that I think a lot of photographers get into the mentality of is kind of what you're saying, Brandon, and no shade to you at all. I love that you brought this up, but he's basically saying, I'd love to believe that, but I literally just had a potential client I did a free shoot for call me yesterday and say my eye for art and photography is better than his current guy, but his images weren't as good. So when he gets flash, call him back. And that's where people mess it up. Okay, so he just likes the flash photos better than your HDR, and he thinks the flash is the difference. We're talking about photo quality here. Kevin's photos are awesome. Normally, his photos are great. We have clear windows. Everything looks great. It looks as good as flash. There's a lot of garbage HDR out there. So you don't have to use flash to get the good result. But we don't, Kevin has, talk about your media. I mean, your videos kill it, dude. Like you spend time on the media, you just pair. That's why you grow so fast. You got both.
Yes. Yeah. And to your point, people can like hang on to one thing that you say and then run with it. It's like, sometimes people, I don't know, but it is frustrating talking to some people because like I want to help them out, but like they get caught up on this one thing, but I've shot, we just have a video. I don't know if we've posted it yet. I got to check with the team, but we just shot a $10 million house a couple weeks ago. We didn't use flash. He loved them. Yeah. I've shot, I don't know, hundreds of photos, worked with hundreds of homes, hundreds of realtors. Nobody's,
It used to be. And so Brandon, for you, some clients are like that. So what I don't want you to do, and I think Kevin would agree with this, like you don't want to change your business because one client said something.
Yeah, I've never had anyone, like sometimes our photos are great, sometimes they're not so great. I don't think I've ever really had anyone complain about our photos. I've never had anyone say, oh, well, you don't use flash. They don't really care. Yeah. So I would not get held up on that. I would just kind of take that on the chin, like, okay, cool, move forward. That's it. Yeah. Because I've shot for hundreds of realtors and nobody's ever brought that up. And if somebody did, I'd be like, oh well, on to the next one. I'm still going to provide exceptional.
There's this story that I love. So it's Southwest Airlines. It was their old CEO, Herb, who they got a letter from this lady who flew Southwest multiple times. And every time she flew Southwest, she would complain about it. And so it got to the point where she wrote a letter that ended up on the CEO's desk. This is a real story. And it was this long letter about how she hates that there's no seat assignment and the seats aren't comfortable and there's not as much service. Like there's all this stuff. And he wrote back, the letter was basically, I'm trying to think of the exact, it was like 2 words, but it was basically like, we wish you all the best. Like, thanks so much for the feedback. We wish you the best. And the important lesson there was that he was not going to change what worked so well for so many people at Southwest because one person didn't like it. He was willing to say, hey, like, I know this model works. And so I have to be willing to lose this client to be the business that all of my other clients want. And I forget the exact words. It was so good when he said it. And I was like, man, that's true. And so there's a phrase that Jared, who I think most people in here have met, he's the COO of REPP right now. And he's good at the operations side of things. And the quote he always says is, you don't change your business for a 1% complaint. Like you don't change the business for 99% of people because 1% of people said something. And it's just like an interesting lesson to learn. The bigger you get, you get these loud people. So anyway, you've grown your business, you put in the work. What are some of like the bigger, how long did it take you to get to 10K? I hate when people ask me because I never remember the specifics. Do you know like roughly when your first 10K month was?
So, okay. I had it written down. My laptop died, but I remember this. So it took us 5 months to get to $9,000.
Okay.
And then on month number 6, we hit 15. And I attribute that to Tim. Shout out here, Tim and Colleen from 3 Palms Media. Amazing. So I remember, like looking at the group, they posted a win in the group where it was like, you guys, we just hit 15,000. And I was like, I was obviously, first of all, I was extremely proud of them. I could tell how much it meant to them. But 2, the competitive side of me was like, oh, if they can do it, I can do it. If they can do it, I can do it. So on month number 6, and actually this will caveat cool into my next story, to my next shout out. But month number 6, I was like laser focused on $15,000 that month. I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. If I can get anywhere near that. And that's what happened. So month number 5, we did 9,000. Month number 6, we went to 15. Just because they posted that they did it. And I was like, I want that too. Simple as that.
Also, just like quick side note, shout out. Colleen and Tim are like the most awesome people, and we got them to be guest coaches in coaching now. So they host a weekly call, and like I'm stoked about it. They're such good people. So
they're amazing.
Yeah, you guys got to stay in competition until you're both doing a couple $100,000 a month. So
yes,
anyway.
yeah, and I think you do have to have a little bit of that competitive nature inside of you for sure.
100%.
But it's not like it's easy to fall into that like what is it? What did they say? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to fall into that because then you start throwing yourself a pity party. But you do want to be a little bit competitive. I think it's healthy. My next shout out is the gentleman who came through REPP that I met during our road to $15,000, month number 6. I was introduced through REPP to this gentleman by the name of Michael Namath with Elevated Media in Knoxville. When we met, that's where I was in my business. 6 months in, working on 15,000. He found out about REPP. We got connected. We got to talking. At the time, he was living in Illinois. We made plans. He drove down here. I think it was like an 8-hour drive. And he's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna come learn from you." I'm like, "I don't know if you want to do that, man. Like, I'm still trying to figure it out on my own, but okay." So he drove down here, and I must have told him this like 1,000 times during that trip. I was like, "Hey man, take everything I say with a grain of salt because I don't really know what I'm doing here yet, but I'll show you what I can." So I kept repeating that, but shout out to him because he lit this fire inside of me because you're sitting here giving me a little bit of praise and thank you. I appreciate that, but this guy blew me out the water. You
two are like the fastest rope of all time. It's insane.
Yeah.
Mike,
but it's so funny. I won't give out his numbers, but they're substantial. Let's leave it at that. But he went from, and I'm sure he's comfortable with me mentioning this part, when he came down and learned from me, it was more of like us learning together, but he had a lot of the same doubts that I hear other people talk about, like, what about the competition? I don't know he didn't know anything about cameras either. He didn't have any photography experience. So that's why he resonated with me. And that's why he felt the need to drive down here. Is like, well, Kevin moved from California to Tennessee. He was about to move from Illinois to Tennessee as well. So he's like, well, if this guy figured it out, let me come learn from him. So,
dude, he's another guy that doesn't mess, dude. He gets after it. That's like the common name, dude. He is.
He's an animal. But but it's funny that in the beginning when he came down here, he had a lot of the same like limiting beliefs. He had a lot of the same doubts. Actually, he just told me a story like a few weeks ago where he said the first time he shot a house after buying all his gear, after enrolling for coaching, he shot his first house and he thought, "Oh no, what have I done?" And he almost he told me that he almost called you and like, "Hey man, I need my money back." Like, I'm in way over my head. Fast forward to now, he's a year in and he's just crushing it. Crushing it. Yeah. But it's just so funny to look back. This is like almost a year ago.
Same person, isn't it? Like we all have our different stuff, but like everybody has the same fears, most of the same fears, the same challenges. And I love what you said at the start. It's really easy to think that someone has something that you don't have that allows them to do that. And they may have situations, that make it easier for them. They may have learned the stuff they needed to in the past. And so they grow faster now because they have a skill set, but that's all stuff that's, an acquired trait at some point. And I used to think the same thing. And it is a nasty thing to get too much in your head because it makes it true where you just won't be able to do the things you want. It's like when I started my business, I felt the same. People look at me now and it's like, oh, like, of course he can do it. It's Eli. But it's so funny because I look at people that are above me. I was one of the guys that was at the event I was mentioning to you, Kevin, was a 33-year-old guy whose business is doing $3 million a month net. I didn't even know those businesses were possible. He's a big player now. He's making a lot of money, $30 million a year. And it's just like, man, like my first thought is like, I don't know what he has that I don't have. And it's like nothing. He just has done stuff well and kept at it. And he's learned things that I haven't. And it's just so funny how at every level it's true. Like, do you remember, and maybe not for you, but I just remember thinking that like 10K a month was impossible. Like I thought it was impossible.
Well, that was the goal that you and I set in the beginning. You were like, how much were you making at your last job? Right. You asked me how much I wanted to make. And I really had no idea. I didn't know what I didn't know. So that was the number that we throw out there. We're like, I don't know, let's start at 10,000. And it did seem a little bit daunting. I'm like, I didn't know anyone here in Tennessee, in Nashville. I didn't know I didn't have any family, any friends, any connections. We quite literally moved here blind. Anyway.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting here telling me we can build this out to 10,000, I was like, I think we're like, I don't know, how long is that going to take me to do? Like, is it going to take me a year to get there? I had no idea. It seemed like such an outlandish number because I had no idea what I was doing. We hit it in month number 6. It just happened like that.
Dude, it's so interesting how the perspective messes people up of not believing that. Like, I think that's why I took so dang long to grow. Like, everybody grows faster than me. You know, you just see me 12 years into it. And so I think a lot of my slow growth at the start was because I thought like, I very vividly, clearly can remember thinking that 4K a month was an almost impossible amount of money to earn. And just I didn't have context. Like, I didn't know anybody who had their own business making $4,000 a month. So I thought it was huge. And it's like 10 and then 50 and then 100. Like, I remember we talked about 100 and I remember you being like, when we talked about it, you know, and it's like, now I think we kind of taste it.
Yeah. It seemed that when you challenged me, what was it, like a month or two ago? You challenged me to get to 100. I'm like, I still kind of don't believe it, but I believe it more now than I did back then. I'm like, okay, we can do this. But
you just do the math, you know. It's like, okay, 100K a month. If my shoots are $300, is 330 shoots or whatever the math is, and then you're just like, okay, 10 a business day, and that's, you know, it's just so that's something that I got early on from like a variety of people that I learned from. Is any goal, you got to have the goal and break it down, so it just makes it so your brain can go, okay, let's, you know, that's how we do it.
An important thing to mention here is that, you know, I start throwing out these big numbers, or big to some people, right? That word is relative, but I'm sitting here saying that we're just shy of 50,000 a month. Other people are about 100,000 a month, whatever it is, right? Yeah. Somebody might be listening to this and like, what are you talking about? I'm having trouble getting past 2,000 a month.
Yeah.
Forget about the big goals, because then you're going to get discouraged a little bit, right? Yeah. Comparison is the thief of joy. You know, it's set a goal. Right? If you're at 2, set a goal for 6. Set a goal for 8. Challenge yourself a little bit, and like really double down, really get to work and hit that goal. Cool. Yeah. Hey, I hit the goal, or I got pretty close to it. Cool. What can we do now? And then just little by little, you got to put your head down. There's another quote that I'm gonna butcher, but people oftentimes
I know what you're going for.
Go, you say it for me, because I'm gonna butcher it.
It's people they overestimate what they can get done in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade, or like any time frame. And dude, I love that quote. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's you know, the reason I share our numbers, and you know, again, I feel like I got called out a little bit at the conference last year, because it's easy to throw out that number because it's like people can kind of like relate to where, you know, where they are, whatever. But I don't throw out the number to boast or brag. It's more to motivate, right? Yeah, when Tim and Colleen, when Tim and Colleen said we just hit 15,000 a month, I know if I'm sitting here doing 9,000 a month, I know exactly like how many shoots that took. I know I can kind of like start to envision what it would take to get there. So if they're sitting there sharing their wins, it's to motivate, right? So if I'm saying 50, and if you're anywhere near that, great. But again, the only reason I bring up that number is because you have to remember, I started this business from nothing, no connections, no nothing, no real estate experience, no photography experience. So it's possible. That's the only reason I bring up those numbers, not out of.
Dude, it's so important. It's It's like you need there's like kind of two forces, right? And so like the for a lot of business owners, the strongest one is the one they're like looking at and trying to figure out how to get to. And so I mean, I love when people, you know, share what they're doing and their numbers, because that's what helped me grow my businesses at the start, and to this day does. Like I was saying with that, you know, kid, 33, he's older than me, but that's a young guy. And like I was literally like, you got to get in situations, in my opinion, that kind of break your brain temporarily, where you like you go through the phases. Like I have a buddy of mine named Eric who a couple of years ago, like literally pissed me off, like by telling me how big his company was. And I was like, how am I not, like, how is that possible? How am I not? And so I looked at what he was doing and I did it. And now my company's bigger than his. And I was like, okay. And so like you get these, and you have, so for everybody, it's like, man, 50K, it feels like an eternity out there. And you're like kind of mad that that's even possible. Like you're not mad at Kevin. It's just like, you're like, what? Like you get that feeling. That is such a valuable feeling for a lot of people. Like, man, like how do I even do that?
And I think you asked me a question and I kind of didn't really answer it, but you asked like, how did I grow quickly? What do I think I can attribute that to? And I talk a lot about like my journey and some of my mindset, because I think that's what it comes down to. It comes down to your mindset. We talk a lot about limiting beliefs. But to answer that question, if somebody's out there listening, like, well, how can I grow to X amount? Whatever that number is for you, because you're part-time or you're all in, whether it's 10,000 a month, whether it's 6,000, 8,000, like, first and foremost, if I was just driving blind and I had no end in sight, no goal, it's like you're pissing in the wind, you know? So
yeah,
we set a goal. I don't know how we got to that number, but that was the goal. We had a goal, and I was somewhat confident that we can hit it. So wherever you are in your business, whether you're starting out or you're a year or two in, whatever, set a goal. Like, hey, we're here now, and I want to be here. Cool. Then you can start breaking that down. So that's step one. You have to know what you want. You have to know, what does your perfect life look like a year from now? How much am I making? What does my personal life look like? For me, I want to make a lot of money, but I also want to be able to see my kids, you know, so that's important to me. And I get to see my kids a lot more than I did with my last career. So that was important to me, right? I want to make this amount of money, and because that's kind of what we're used to making. And that's how we came up to that number. Like, we based that off of how much I was making my last job. I want to make this amount of money, and I want to have this much time with my kids. So that was like that was my goal in the beginning, right? It's like another quote that I've had to be reminded of is like, remember why you started, right? Because we can get lost in the sauce. We can get, you know, start chasing the rabbit, start chasing a number, and then you kind of forget why you started. For me, the whole reason I got introduced to this is because I wanted to eventually, you know, buy back my time and I wanted to spend more time with my kids and my family. So that's why, you know, so it's easy for me to start chasing these big numbers, but it's like, hey, remember why you started. So sometimes I have to kind of like humble myself a little bit and remember why I started. So if you're listening to this, that's super important. You have to identify what it is that you want. Cool. Then you can start breaking that down. And then how do I get there? Right. But and then the second part of that is you have to kind of throw your limiting beliefs out the window. What about the competition? What about this? What about that one client? Forget about all that. Forget about all that. So challenge yourself a little bit and throw some of the limiting beliefs out the window and get to work. That's another thing. Like, when I get on calls with people who are asking me like what my experience was with the whole process, I tell them, like, get ready to work your ass off. Like, another thing that I tell them is you get what you put in. Simple as that. I bust my ass off, you know, to get to where I'm at. And lots of late nights, lot of hard work. But what I tell people a lot is like, you get what you put in. Dude. Right? If you're just that's everything right there. It's all
anything that's positioned as otherwise is fake. You know what I mean? Like, there's just not there's the only shortcuts are by learning from the mistakes of others. You still got to do the work. You know what I mean? Like, there's no button you're going to press that's going to get you there. And a lot of people, it's really sad because a lot of people spend so much time going from, oh, this didn't work for me. I was talking to a guy. I don't know if we've released the video yet, so I'm like to stay off a little bit. But he was like, he went from trying to do like crypto stuff to like Amazon, like all of the big like secret money making opportunities that are pitched online, and they didn't work. And it's like, what a lot of people do wrong is they bounce from idea to idea to idea. And it's depth of experience is where you make money. And you can get depth of experience by doing a little bit for a long time or a lot for a little bit of time. And so like your approach, Kevin, and like the reason you have a $50K a month business is because you did what a lot of people take 5 years to do in a year. And so it wasn't a shortcut, you know, it was like, it was, you didn't spend any time looking for a shortcut. You spent all the time going, okay, here's the path. Let me go down that path as fast as I can possibly do it. And that's what I like about your all in mentality. It's like, there's no secrets. There's no hidden stuff. Yeah, you don't want to like do stupid stuff, but like once you know the path, you just got to do more of it. And I think a lot of people mess that up. I think what a lot of people do that makes it really hard to grow is they don't, I'm trying to think how to like sum this up in the proper way, but they basically don't actually do the things that are needed to grow their business. They spend a lot of time thinking about the things that they could do. And so that's one thing that I just like really like about you. And I know we've talked about this a lot, but like you just did the stuff. It wasn't like, oh, this worked. What else can I do? You're like, well, this worked. Let me just do a ton more of it. And I think that's something that is the key.
You know, one of the buzzwords that I've been hearing going through like Instagram and all this, like these motivational videos that you see on Instagram or YouTube, but one of the buzzwords that I've been hearing a lot lately is like discipline. Like, don't be afraid of failure. And I definitely had a lot of failures, but you learn from them. You know, instead of just you know, kind of like putting yourself down over the failure than, kind of take a step back. Like, okay, how can I make sure that never happens again? How can I make sure I don't piss off the client or forget the issue or whatever the mistake is? How can I avoid that and then learn from it? Right. So there's definitely been a lot of failures. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is like a thing too, that the way I think about it is, the last year and a half, you've done a lot of work, right? How much easier is it than always being like, I should do this, I could have done, like like a lot of people, are trying to avoid the hard work, which actually just gives you a harder life. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like people like, oh, like, I don't want to sacrifice. I'm like, well, you sacrifice either way. You either sacrifice your time or you sacrifice what you could have had. And that's a lot more painful. So like, it's like, when you talk about hard work, is that a positive thing in your mind? Like, does it feel good, or is that like, oh man, like that sucks? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's rewarding. It's hard work, a lot of late nights, but man, it's rewarding to build something from scratch. And like, that's me. I'm the owner. To be able to say I'm the owner of Nashville Media Company, it's so much more rewarding. So for me, that motivates me. Like, I don't mind putting in the hard work. That's what it is. I don't mind the work. Versus I did mind working for somebody else. I did mind for somebody else and not being there with my kids. I did mind that. Here, running my own company, making as much as I do, being able to be there with my family, putting in the work, I don't mind. So, and again, it's like, we throw out these big numbers, but if that's not you, if you're like, I'm more comfortable here, then that's fine. Like, whatever it is that you're, if you're like, hey, I just want to do 1 or 2 shoots a day, make $500 a day, and that's it, call it a day, and you're fine there. That's perfectly fine. That's good money. I think my last job, I'd make like $280 a day, or 400, whatever, 450, 440 if it was overtime. And for me, like, that was good money. Here, doing this, when I was shooting by myself, I can go out and make $1,000 take home after all the editors are paid for, and it is so easy. So it is what you make it. It can be hard work, or you can get to a certain point and then just kind of coast a little bit. Me, I am pretty ambitious. I have these ambitious goals, so that's why I'm pushing so hard. I went all in, so I wanted to grow quickly, so I put in the work. But not everybody's going to want to do that. If you want to be a little bit, slow, a little bit of a slower growth, and that's not your path, that's fine. If you're more comfortable, like, well, I just want to start here, make this much, and then do that for like a year, that's fine. But you still have to like identify that goal, break it down, and then work towards it. There is still going to be quite a bit of work as far as like the Instagram method and going out, getting your drone license. Like, that's work, outreach. Like, I was like a crackhead on Instagram doing outreach. Like, it's work. So, but again, I didn't mind the hard work because I was happy. I love what I do. So,
and anybody that feels especially called out by this, I did mean to call you out. People come to these lives. We see you every week. We like you. You're great, but you don't do anything between the lives. So for people, Kevin, that have like kept coming to lives, I mean, what's your advice to them? And that's not saying like, yes, they should join coaching, but like deeper than that, like, what would be your thoughts on what they should do?
Yeah, just make a decision, go for it. Throw the fear. I think a lot of that, like that on the fence, is some amount of fear, which we all have. I had plenty of fear. Mike from Elevated had plenty of fear. Get over it. Like, I'm here. Use me as your resource. If you have questions, like, come to me. I'm gonna give you some advice. But I think it's fear. So I guess the advice I'd give you is like, set a goal. I don't care what it is, and start, and just have faith that it's gonna work out. You're gonna put in the work. You're gonna get what you put in. There's plenty of other people. Like, don't take it from me. I'm nobody special. There's plenty of other people out there making way more money than I am that probably did it faster. So, and the only reason I share that is for you to know that it's possible. So identify what it is that you want and just take a step towards it. Honestly, whatever it is, whether it's real estate photography or another industry, but set a goal, get after it, and get ready to enjoy the process, put in the work, and just, I don't care what it is, like, get after it. You have to have that is so valuable, having that. Honestly, otherwise you're an employee. I'm sorry, but like, if you don't have the ability to just like take that leap of faith a little bit in whatever it is that you do, then you're an employee. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But make that decision. Cool. Now
That's
go
so good.
Get that job. So.
All right. Before
answers, I don't know.
Well, no, I love that. I was going to say, before you leave, because you got a family and your time is valuable. I know that. Everybody thank Kevin in the comments. on my behalf. And thank you as well from my end, Kevin. That was incredible. And
thank you.
Yeah, generous to spend an hour on here. So go enjoy your family, Kevin. And yeah, thanks for creating an inspiring story. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Good luck.
Yeah.
National Media Company. If you have any questions, reach out. I'm an open book. Yeah, I'd love to help. Make sure you
an
follow.
Open book and the real deal. Yeah, don't harass him too much, but just a little bit. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Good luck, guys. Take care.